May 20th, 2026, the South Col, Mount Everest. 274 climbers had just reached the summit of the highest mountain on Earth in a single day, more than at any point in the recorded history of climbing. The route had been compressed for weeks. The north side was shut completely, and nearly 500 permits had been issued for one narrow corridor of rope and ice. For 36 hours, the mountain looked like a triumph. 2 days later, 2 of those climbers were dead. This was not the 2026 Everest season anyone expected when the spring permits first opened in March. China had closed the northern route through Tibet without explanation. No statement, no timeline, no official reason ever published. Every climber on Earth who wanted to stand on the summit of Everest in 2026 had exactly one path available to them: the south side, through Nepal, up the Khumbu Icefall, past Camp 2, past the South Col, and into the death zone. Not one team, not one permit, not one single climber went north this season. All 495 climbing permits, all of the Sherpas, all of the fixed ropes, all of the ambition poured through a single bottleneck on the southern flank of the mountain. Nepal collected more than $7 million in permit royalties this spring alone. The season was, commercially speaking, the largest Everest operation in history. But then the mountain added its own variable, and the part I find most extraordinary about what happened next is that the worst crowding in Everest history was not just the consequence of record permits. It was the product of a chain reaction that began 6 weeks before anyone reached the summit. This is the brutal May update on the 274 climber traffic jam that broke the 2026 Everest season. Welcome to Tourist Tragedies. To understand why 274 people were on that summit ridge on a single Wednesday in May, you have to understand what the Khumbu Icefall is and what it did to this season. The Khumbu Icefall is the gateway section of the route between Everest Base Camp at about 17,000 feet and Camp 1. It is not just a steep section of the climb, it is a living glacier moving downhill at roughly 3 feet per day, constantly shifting, collapsing, and reforming. Every year, a team of elite Sherpa climbers called the Icefall Doctors spend weeks threading ropes and aluminum ladders through the chaos, bridging crevasses wide enough to swallow a bus, building a route that hundreds of climbers will use as their highway to the upper mountain. They are the reason commercial Everest climbing is possible at all. In 2026, they hit a wall. On April 10th, the Icefall Doctors discovered a massive serac, a tower of unstable glacial ice, roughly 90 feet tall and 180 feet wide, blocking the route approximately 1,000 feet below Camp 1. 2 weeks of monitoring confirmed the danger. On April 24th, the entire section was officially declared impassable. For the 400-plus climbers already at base camp, each having paid $15,000 for their permit alone, the wait began. That figure does not include guiding costs, logistics, flights, or the months of physical preparation that most serious amateur climbers invest before they even arrive in Nepal. These are not casual decisions. These are people who have reorganized significant portions of their lives around a single mountain, and in mid-April 2026, every single one of them was sitting at base camp watching an ice tower that the glacier was refusing to release. Among them was Arun Kumar Tiwari, 53 years old, and Sandeep 47, both Indian nationals climbing with an expedition company called Pioneer Adventures. India was the third largest national group on the mountain this season, 61 permit holders, behind China with 109 and the United States with 77. Almost all of them were waiting for the same ice formation to make a decision. The Icefall Doctors tried 2 alternative passages through the Icefall. Both failed. They waited for the serac to fall on its own. Part of it did, but a substantial portion, cracked, fractured, and declared at imminent risk of collapse by the Sagarmatha Pollution Control Committee, remained directly above the only viable route. Meanwhile, base camp was swelling to nearly 3,500 people, including climbers, guides, cooks, porters, and support staff. That is roughly the population of a small town, living in tents at 17,000 feet, burning through oxygen supplies and food stores while the calendar moved forward and the summit window stayed fixed. The Icefall Doctors finally threaded a workable route on April 28th, 19 days behind schedule. teams that expected to begin acclimatization rotations in early April were not starting them until the first week of May. The summit weather window, which typically runs from mid to late May, had not expanded to accommodate anyone. It never does. By the second week of May, the mountain was moving fast. Teams that had waited 19 days at base camp were now completing their acclimatization rotations in compressed time, stacking camps in rapid succession, watching the forecast with the kind of attention that border on religious devotion in expedition circles. The first major summit window opened around May 19th. Clear skies, low winds, a manageable jet stream. Exactly the conditions Everest climbers wait entire seasons for. And because every climber on the Nepal side had been delayed by the same 19 days, they all converged on the same weather window at the same moment. From 3 in the morning on May 20th until 2 in the afternoon, the fixed lines to the summit were continuously occupied. By the time the last climbers descended that day, Nepal's Department of Tourism had confirmed 274 successful summits from the Nepal side alone, shattering the previous single-day record of 223 set in 2019. The queue stretched for roughly 5 kilometers along the fixed lines above the South Col. For 11 hours, the highest ridge on Earth was a traffic jam. May 21st, 2026. The summit season was still running. The weather window was holding, but somewhere in the descent column, Arun Kumar Tiwari had stopped being able to move. He had summited earlier that day. 4 Sherpa guides were with him, assisting his descent. Near the Hillary Step, the near-vertical rock band at approximately 29,000 feet, meters below the true summit, he was no longer moving under his own power. His lungs were filling with fluid. Sandeep R. had summited the day before, on May 20th. During his descent from the summit ridge, he had begun losing his vision. Snow blindness at extreme altitude is not like the manageable condition of the same name at lower elevations. Above 26,000 feet, in the death zone, losing your sight on an exposed ridge with 1,000-foot drops on either side is immediately life-threatening. 5 Sherpa guides rescued R from the south summit and brought him down through the night. He reached Camp 2. He died shortly after arrival. Tiwari died on the summit ridge. He never made it lower. To understand what killed Arun Kumar Tiwari, you need to understand what high-altitude pulmonary edema actually is. HAPE is a condition in which fluid accumulates in the lungs at extreme elevation, severely reducing the body's ability to transfer oxygen from the air to the blood. It is not altitude sickness in the common sense of headaches and nausea. It is a medical emergency that can progress from early breathlessness to complete physical incapacitation in a matter of hours. At 29,000 feet, there is approximately 1/3 of the oxygen available at sea level. A human being operating in that environment is already running on reserves the body was never designed to use. When HAP develops in that context, the margin between survivable and fatal can be measured in minutes. The treatment is descent. Fast, continuous descent to lower elevation. The problem on the night of May 21st was the fast descent on a 5-kilometer fixed line in darkness, with hundreds of other climbers on the ropes, is not something a HAPE-compromised body can execute regardless of how capable the Sherpa support team is. The mountain does not move to accommodate medical emergencies. Quick heads up. Every week I drop a new update on the mountains that you will not find anywhere else. Please subscribe. By May 22nd, the deaths of Tiwari and RA had been confirmed. They were the 4th and 5th fatalities of the 2026 season. 3 Nepali mountain workers, Lakpa Dende Sherpa, Bijaya Gyamire Bishwakarma, and Fura Gyaljan Sherpa, had already died before a single paying client ever set foot above the icefall. The mountaineering community responded the way it almost always does, quietly, respectfully, and with a renewed round of calls for regulation. Pioneer Adventures, the expedition organizer for Tiwari and RA, confirmed the deaths and provided what details were available. Sandeep RA is survived by a 17-year-old son. No official inquiry into the conditions on the summit ridge during the record window had been announced as of this update. The season, for the hundreds of other climbers still on the mountain or still holding permits, continued without pause. When you lay the full sequence of events from this season into order, a clear picture forms of how a record became a tragedy. The the chain had 4 links. The first was China's closure of the Tibet route, which took a mountain with 2 natural pressure release valves and sealed one of them permanently for the season, forcing the complete weight of global Everest demand through a single southern corridor. The second link was the serac in the Khumbu Icefall, which did not reduce the number of people on the mountain, but compressed a season already running at maximum capacity into an even shorter effective window. The third link was the meteorological reality that weather windows on Everest do not expand to accommodate more climbers. They are fixed by physics, not by permit offices. 274 people fitting through a single window means 274 people on the same ropes, breathing the same depleted air, competing for the same descent lanes, all depending on the same finite number of Sherpa guides to get them back to lower elevations alive. The fourth link was individual human physiology. Heipe does not announce itself in advance. Snow blindness accumulates gradually. In a well-spaced season, a climber showing early symptoms has room to turn around before conditions become irreversible. In a 5-kilometer queue on a single weather day, the room to turn around is gone. The 2026 Everest season did not break because of one bad decision. It broke because a geopolitical closure, a geological delay, a meteorological window, and a record permit season all converged at the same moment. And because Arun Tiwari and Sandeep were 2 of the 274 people in that queue when their bodies reached their limits. Nepal is now actively reviewing whether to introduce mandatory minimum experience requirements for Everest permits. The question every serious voice in high-altitude medicine and expedition management is asking is whether any regulatory framework designed for a normal season can actually contain what happens when every structural pressure point fires simultaneously, on the same mountain, through the same route, in the same 11-hour window. Do you think Nepal should impose a hard annual cap on the total number of Everest permits? Or would a cap simply push the same demand toward less regulated mountains in Pakistan and China? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one.